Welcome back, everybody, to Paranormal Planet. I'm your host, Jack Carey. I've got some crazy stuff to show you on this week's show. And first off is something that is really disturbing to look at, and what appears to be a freshly discovered Bigfoot kill pit. Now, these have been discovered before. I know of two in Colorado when I lived out that way. I did not discover those personally, but two were discovered by other researchers. And this one, which was discovered in the mountains of Idaho, down in this kind of hidden little ravine, appears to have what looks like hundreds of animals. The gentleman who's filming it states that most of the legs that he saw looked like they were broken. He counted over 15 heads that were just kind of protruding up and out of the mountain of elk bodies that is here, and 4 tracking collars among those 15 heads. So somebody must be aware that 4 animals ceased to stop living at this exact area in the Parks and Wildlife, you would assume. Again, the sheer size of this kill pit is really disturbing. It seems to me to be outside of normal behavioral range as we understand it to be with the Bigfoot species. The broken legs are in keeping with what we know about their pack hunting techniques. We know from witnesses who have seen them doing it that they utilize pack hunting techniques. Some animals will scare deer or elk towards a wood line or towards a choke point where other Bigfoot creatures are waiting, and they reach out from behind the trees and grab their legs and just snap them in half. What's interesting about not only the way that they take these animals down, but a lot of them are discovered without, the meat being removed from the animal. Sometimes there is merely a slit in the side of the animal, and the liver is removed. Any biologist will tell you that the deer liver, the elk liver, is the most nutritious thing in the forest, and these animals appear to be adept enough at catching them that they may, in fact, be able to sort of live off of deer and elk livers without having to consume a lot of the rest of the animal. Again, that's all speculation, but a lot of these kills have been found with just the livers removed and the front leg snapped in much the same way that a lot of these legs look like they are. What can I say, guys? It's a disturbing find. I'm quite certain that the national parks guys will come in with their secretive crews, and they will, block off that whole area, and nobody will be allowed in for probably months and months while they call in their special squads to deal with what they simply call a trouble animal. They won't even say that probably in this case, but they've got crews that deal with problems like this. So before the cover-up starts and before that little clip even disappears, it was something that just came out in the last couple of days, and it's interesting because it did hit the mainstream. There was very scant detail in the report other than where it was recorded from, and the gentleman's initial impressions while you stood there in shock, watching this whole thing take, in front of him. Next, we have an amazing development, if you will, out of the guys at Skinwalker Ranch. They've utilized a new technology known as photogrammetry to take a 3D model of the entire ranch. And when they were reviewing the pictures taken by this new technology, the technology identified very strange structures that you cannot see with the naked eye, but are there apparently with thousands and thousands of data points. There is something solid there. According to this technology, it is at least 100 feet, above the ground is where it starts. And they were able to identify more than one of these on the property. I discussed previously the whole idea of alien portals and the fact that it seemed to be that they were converging on basically telling the public that this was in fact an interdimensional doorway, that the beings coming through it were aliens, but they were aliens from another dimension, and I believe that's the direction that you're seeing them continue to go in here. Very, very interesting in all of this is that one of the two structures they were able to line up that apparently look like some sort of vortex, doorway, portal, actually lines up with the center stone of a stone circle that was discovered on the property. And I find that fascinating because, there are a lot of famous stone circles around the world, Stonehenge being, the primary one. And Stonehenge has a long history of UFOs, being seen there, being photographed there. Even some of the hillside around Stonehenge, there's been some very strange photographs taken of the actual hills, the ground, where it seems to kind of blink in and out of existence. Some of the footage that I've seen, really, really interesting stuff. So the alien portals, it looks like that's where the U.S. government is headed with their disclosure. Again, I've stated many times that Skinwalker Ranch show is part of overall disclosure. And they've stated as much on the show that the CIA was in fact watching their efforts. And that's something that they said on camera. The chief scientist, Travis Taylor, who we now know actually was the chief scientist for the Pentagon's program dealing with the same problem that they're dealing with. So this is all highly encouraging stuff, guys. The fact that they're identifying what these look like, that we can actually see them with the technology that we have, that they've been able to record that a lot of this phenomenon occurs at 1.6 gigahertz. The fact that we can measure the frequencies that this kind of phenomenon is occurring on, it leads me down the road of the idea that we may one day figure out, in fact, how to close those doors using frequency, using sound, and, some of the really kind of the ancient secrets of the past. Now, I found this interesting because this was a photograph released in the United Kingdom's X-Files. There were 4,000 pages of UFO files that were released. And this is just one historical example of a UFO being photographed at Stonehenge. And the fact that they made such a point of one of these portals being positioned directly in line with the center stone of the stone circle is really fascinating to me. You can, of course, look up different images. There's a lot of, more modern day images of UFOs above Stonehenge. And this leads us to the question, did these ancient people know that these interdimensional portals were there? Did someone tell them that they were there? Did they notice that these were places where, as they say, the thin was veil, and they commemorated it? These are all questions of the ancient past. I want to shoot over and mention the new show, UFO Witness. I did mention it on a previous episode. The two principal investigators who are pictured here are named Melissa Tittle and Brian Hansen, and they are really good investigators. So Melissa Tittle is actually my former producer at Gaia, and she's a very experienced UFO investigator. And I mention it because they just ran an episode dealing with the alien abduction phenomenon and the hybridization program that has been run on this planet at least since 1961 with Betty and Barney Hill. And I wanted to point out to you guys on the Paranormal Intelligence Agency channel here, if you go down to the full-length investigative videos, you will find Walking Among Us, the Alien Hybrid Threat. I highly encourage you to watch that video. Now, the full-length videos I produce and put on this channel are good reference videos for any of these phenomenon. And the reason why is because I include all of the most credible evidence for any one of these phenomenon in my videos. So if there is any ounce of credibility to evidence for that phenomenon, you will find it in those videos. You will find the best evidence. And I highly encourage you to watch the Walking Among Us video. It is rather disturbing. And at the end, you get to see what very likely was the case of a alien hybrid having integrated into American society, and that was then even recounted at the end in a very interesting newspaper article in Los Angeles. So check that out. Before I forget, I want to mention, come by to paraintelligenceagency.com. Subscribers will have access to our latest findings at our cryptozoology field operation and the 1,000+ acre reserve that we have been given full access to. We have outfitted this investigative area with some of the most high-tech cameras possible, and all of that will be available. The videos from our operation ongoing right now will be available only to subscribers on the paraintelagency.com site for at least a week, maybe two, before those will be made public. We did find some interesting evidence out there. And I wanted to point out a very interesting article that now has come out. In this article is from Newsweek, and I find it fascinating because the article is about the Pentagon forming a new task force, which is going to study all of the paranormal phenomenon, transmedium phenomenon, if you will. And when you read the article, they state really unequivocally that these things are posing a threat. And if you read very carefully at the bottom, which I highlight here, it states that they are looking for ways of, and I quote, mitigation and defeat. Ways of mitigating and defeating this phenomenon. those words were actually used in this Newsweek article, and it just came out yesterday. You can readily find it out there. Now, this showed up on, of course, on IR open source intelligence gathering software, and it's one of those things, I read this article and I was like, well, guys, I already founded the Paranormal Intelligence Agency in 2009. I wonder if they were upset they couldn't use the name. They only gave it another, interesting series of letters standing for a bunch of, nonsense. In the end, what they have formed now is a paranormal intelligence agency, much like the one you are watching. And it's interesting will be interesting to see what comes out of those studies, if they will actually release some of the things that they find. It says that they are, and it says that they're going to take any and all of the reports seriously, and that many of these phenomenon are actually taking place in what they call special use um, places. So those are places where black budget programs are going on. So yeah, that's fascinating. Also wanted to mention now on UFO Witness, they are also talking about what appears to be a conflict taking place between alien species on this planet. And I also found that interesting because here on the PIA YouTube channel, there is also a full-length investigative report that I did here, and it's called UFO Wars Happening Now Could Determine Our Fate. And I show you actual footage of what appears to be alien craft. All right, and that's all I've got for you guys this week. There's been a lot going on. I am just about ready to release my new book. It will be titled The Enoch Code, Decoding the Lost Secrets of the Anunnaki and the Lost Tomb of the Watchers. So be looking for that, and I'll see you next week.